Much, Sushmita, for inviting me, and Shalini. Happy to be part of your endeavor.
So,
Sushmita, again for the questions now. Khalum stands for sustainability, and sustainable clothing means fabrics which are woven from sustainably grown yarns, and also that is which is woven with recycled yarns. It also refers to the way the fabrics are made. So at Khalum, we weave high-end sustainable fabrics with recycled yarns on handlooms. And Khalum has a social and environmental impact, meaning it is a social and environmental startup. That was the focus when we started Khalum. So the environmental impact is because we use recycled yarns, the textile waste is being put to use, and there is no water is conserved because there is no dyeing involved. And because we are weaving on handloom, there is no carbon dioxide emission. The social impact is because we mainly employ women weavers. We don't have a gender bias, but we mainly employ women, handloom women weavers, giving them a fair standard living wage and a safe environment. So that is in a nutshell the mission of Khalid. Yeah, so actually, see, in Khalum, we use recycled yarns. Now, I think, recycle means converting waste into usable material. So when you use recycled yarns, they can be from post-industrial waste or from post-consumer waste. Now, when we talk about post-industrial waste, it means the cutting waste from the garment factories. They're all collected and then it is sorted as per the size, composition, and color. And then it is cleaned to remove paper or any metal pieces and all that. And then it is going to be shredded. Once it is shredded, it is going to be mixed with another yarn. It could be a small percentage of a virgin cotton or organic cotton, or a little amount of polyester yarn which is made from PET bottles. This gives it the strength and then it is spun into a yarn which can be used for weaving. When you look at the post-consumer yarn, again here it is the fabrics like all the old clothes and when we don't want and we give it away, it could be different kind of clothes, and that is going to be again collected. Then it is sorted as per the size, composition, and color. Then it is cleaned and again it is shredded and then mixed with another yarn to make it weavable. That other yarn gives it a little bit of strength. That is basically the process which is involved in producing these recycled yarns, and those yarns are woven in Khalum on the handloom. It is actually segregated as cotton or wool or polyester. They are segregated as per the kind of category they come under. So, I mean, of course, there's a lot more detailed process which goes into the segregation and making the yarns. I'm just giving you a very brief because we are not into the yarn making, but yes, we know the basic process which goes into it, which is as per what I had told you earlier. Okay, so we make fabrics which are 100% cotton, then fabrics from post-industrial yarns, fabric from post-consumer yarns, then silk and cotton blends, and recycled denims. These are our main qualities which we work with now. See, I mean, handloom weaving requires some skill. It is not easy to operate in a handloom. I would say a shuttleless loom is easy because you just press the button and it goes on. But with the handloom weaving, it's a very coordinated effort between your eyes, your hands, and legs. So the person who's operating a handloom should have some knowledge of working on the loom. And Khalum is located close to the Weavers Colony in Bangalore, which is on Benorgata Road. And the weavers come from families of weavers, meaning their fathers, uncles, grandfathers. The entire family has always been into hand weaving, and they have learned from their fathers or just grown up with looms all the time throughout their from the young age. And we have weavers who come from these backgrounds who are working in Khalum. And it is important for us that they understand handloom weaving because our quality standards are also quite high. Though the yarns which are used, the recycled yarns, they have their own inherent nature. They're not like a normal polyester yarn or cotton yarn, because you're shredding the fabric or the post-industrial waste, and you're making small short fibers, and then it is spun with something else. There is a kind of inherent nature which is there to these yarns. So all this is preserved in handloom, and our weavers are trained to pick out the faults and to understand that, and they know how to operate the looms also. A little bit they need to know. actually, if you see all the pictures, the women are always happy and smiling in Kaloom. They're very happy to be a part of Kaloom. See,
Yeah.
one is these women, as I told you, they have learned from their fathers, and they have learned from their fathers, they've learned from their uncles. Sorry, I'm getting distracted with the questions, and it's very interesting to see the questions which are coming in. So they have learned from their fathers and uncles, and these women have never gone to work before they came to Kaloom. So for them, putting a skill which they have learned from their fathers and to earn money from that is a big deal. So they are contributing to the household expenses, and they identify with the fabrics they weave at Kaloom. They have a sense of belonging. They're happy to come to work because we provide a safe and clean environment. Being women, I think we all understand, having a safe environment as well as a clean environment is very, very important, especially for people who come from a lower income group. And so they're very happy to be a part of Kaloom. And if you look at some of the stories, like I have one lady who's called Vinuta, and she learned from her father, and she has two daughters, and she wants to teach her daughters handloom weaving. She's like, she's very much for it. So at Kaloom, not only are we preserving this age-old tradition of hand weaving, we are encouraging the younger generation also to take up this profession. Because as you know, nowadays many of them don't want to go back to the traditional techniques which is there in India, and most of these techniques are dying. But we are trying to preserve this so that even the younger generation has hope that they can earn a living by taking up this profession. And if you look at one more story is of one Ivanka story, as I will tell you. We went to a cooperative society, and her son, who is 5 years old, he just sat on the handloom and he started moving the shuttle. He has never been taught.
Right.
He just has looked at his father, his mother, and and he just kept it. And she was so proud, and she's like, he knows how to operate the loom even without me teaching. So I think that sense of them wanting to teach the younger generation, and they don't mind their children learning it and taking this up, I think that's a very good thing, I think. Yeah, so actually we are going to start. So I've started with a little bit of research, and I contacted the Karnataka government because they have a database of all the handloom weavers and the cooperative societies in the state. Now, since Kaloom, we are already we had expanded last year, and we are in the process of expanding some more looms, but there is a market for sustainable fabrics, and we know we would be able to increase the amount of production. So instead of having it directly under Kaloom, we thought it could be a good idea to contact the weavers and handloom cooperative societies. I visited a couple of them, and honestly, it was so pathetic after the COVID because they had no work, and even if they had work, they were paid very, very less for it. So we thought it could be a good idea to train these weavers, to weave the fabrics. What we are weaving at Kaloom in the same way with the same standards, so that not only do they get paid a fair wage, and it also helps us to get our production woven at these cooperative societies. So that is our going to be the way we are going to proceed in future. In my opinion, again, I feel there has been a conscious effort by many of the companies, especially the big ones, to address the waste which they're producing. Okay, so because all the mills, everybody knows textile industry is one of the most polluting industries in the world.
Right.
So there has been a conscious effort by many of the big companies to ensure that the waste is treated properly, that it's not getting dumped into the water or into the land like that. But I feel we still have a long way to go, especially with the smaller units, because there is a lot more work to be done, and even the government has stepped in for sure by putting in a lot of regulations regarding the finishing industry and dyeing industry, saying that they need to have an ETP plant and things like that. But I think we still have a lot more work to do on that front, as per me. So see, with the currently, I'm going to speak on behalf of Kaloom, because the other areas where I work with, it's different. It's only export. So with Kaloom, we have mainly found there is a difference between quality and color. Because okay, we are different, they are different. So that one thing is definitely there. Other than that, I would say that they're more organized. The international customers are a little more organized, focused, and regular with the collections they do and with the orders they place. I mean, within the Indian customers also, we have a couple of them who are like that, but generally it's a little bit random. So it's not so organized and so regular and so focused that they are making their collections like this and into sustainable garments or into sustainable fabrics. So that could be a little bit better, I would say, for the Indian market. So Let's Mask India we were supported by IKEA for this particular project. And last year during the COVID, we have, Kalu makes cotton sustainable fabrics.
Right.
So we donated these fabrics in order to make masks for the essential workers, like the BBMP workers, as well as the auto drivers and people like that. So in this way, not only did we provide masks to these people, but we also had tailors who were out of work because of COVID. So they were able to earn some amount of money by sewing these masks. And I think from the fabric, Khaloom donated about 16,000 masks were made. So it was a very good thing. We felt very happy to be part of this initiative, actually, especially during the first COVID wave. It was quite difficult. I mean, we didn't know what masks were, and it was something completely new for all of us. So I think we did. For me, sustainability would be something that exists constantly. You sustain something, so you're there all the time. So I think for me, that's what I would say sustainability is. And if you look at it, for me, in the terms of yarns, I would say having yarns which are going to degrade, they're sustainable. It's not something which is going to pollute the environment. So for me, that would be the thing I would say with respect to the yarns. Yeah, I can. There's no post and pre. Who is this? Anuja, is it?
Yeah, Anuja.
So, because even during the first wave, we were working more or less because we are making fabric for masks. So we come under the essential services. So we have continued even during the second wave. Even during the second wave, at its peak time, we had workers who were coming to work at the factory. Though many of us couldn't go because there was no transportation and things like that. But they were walking to the factory and weaving because they really like the work they do. And they understand it, they identify with the fabrics they're weaving, and they feel like they're part of a big family at Khaloom. So that was during the second wave, and we are still continuing to work, and we will continue to work during the pandemic, after the pandemic, and as we go along. And we are also in the process of expansion. As I said, we expanded last year in October, we added more looms, and now again we are adding more looms in Khaloom because we have requirements for sustainable fabrics. It is there, and the market is there, and people are placing orders. So we will continue as we are now. Okay. No special plans, but expansion plans are there.
Okay.
Everybody thinks sustainable fabrics are expensive. I would say that there are two reasons as per me. One is there are very few players. I have not come across anyone who's using many companies who are using recycled yarns and weaving on handloom and producing it a lot. It's not like the other kind of fabrics which are made. So the players are very less, which maybe that's why the fabrics are a little bit niche. Second reason I would say is, at Khaloom, especially at Khaloom, we are providing a safe and clean environment. We provide the weavers standard wages, very fair standard living wages. And, the standard and quality of our fabrics are also high. All these mean that we have a price on our fabrics. Okay. So I don't think it is high. If you keep all these factors in mind, I don't think it is high. So I would say that we are quite well priced, actually. There are a few companies who are doing it. Okay, as I said, there are a couple of companies who are already doing it, but it is less compared to the international market. So maybe, it depends on the company. It depends on the company which is into sustainable clothing. They may be having their own challenges, which I don't know. Maybe they're a company which is into sustainable fabric, sustainable garments, so they have their own challenges. And I have no idea about that, but it is less. As far as Khaloom is concerned, we see that focused and organized clientele with their collections less than what it is with the international customers.
Okay.
That's a very long story. Okay. So the thing is, I've always very funnily, when I started my career, we were not so much into handloom weaving or sustainable fabrics and things like that, which is 30 years back. It was more into shuttleless looms, high speed, high quality fabrics being made on shuttleless looms, where the production is high and the quality is really good. You never find any flaw in the fabric. It's just perfect, very less flaws, very regular, and the production is very fast. And I started working on these looms with silk yarn, which means silk is one of the strongest yarns you can get. So the flaws and the defects you can also get with silk is very minimal. It only has a problem with light fastness generally. So when I started with this kind of a thing, it was very premium. The fabrics were very expensive and very premiumly, the cost was exceedingly high. The companies were like Himmat Singha. I'm not very sure if you're aware of Himmat Singha and Zenith and Mulberry. There are all these companies in Bangalore who make these high-end fabrics, really high-end, and it's for the home industry. So these were the kind of fabrics I saw over the years, and the quality and things like that. But as I went along, I realized that whenever we had a lot of customers, especially outside India, there is a lot of appreciation for hand woven fabrics, which is more than what I see within India. And these customers always used to come to us and say, can you make something like this, which is hand woven? And you can do whatever you want on the shuttleless loom, but you can never replicate that hand woven look on the shuttleless loom because it's so regular. The hand woven thing is, it's that hand woven. It is that is the beauty of the fabric, which you can never replicate in a shuttleless woven fabric. So looking at all that, and then looking at the conditions of these weavers, and then the different techniques we have in India, all the traditional weaving, printing, embroidery, it's huge. It's huge. And then I realized that there was so much more in India which we had, and we were not promoting it enough. But the outside market had more. They gave it more importance, and they accepted all that more than what the Indian public did. I felt that people would buy a printed sari, just a regular print or a regular woven thing, but not something where there was a hand look to it, or where they see the effort an artisan has put. So this actually made me go more into hand weaving and traditional textiles. I also had a store called Dee, which was focused on hand woven fabrics. It was anything handmade, because I feel I'm also a designer. So as a designer or as an artisan, there is no price you can put on something you make. It's an intangible cost. It's not like a tangible cost. You say this is the cost of yarn, this, and this is there, because it's more the creativity, the hand, the effort which is put in. So that's how I got into traditional weaving, and then into sustainability, because I see the buzz in the outside world. The focus is sustainability, because we realize that we are killing the planet. We realize the amount of waste we're dumping into the landfills, into the water, which we don't realize now. But I'm sure the future generation is definitely not going to be happy with us for all these things we are dumping into the seas and the landfills. I'm sure of it. So that's how I got into sustainability and traditional weaving. And I think if I could do something for this, I think I feel good about it. So that's how I got into it. One is see, Khaloom weaves on handlooms, so that means we have a particular production capacity. It's not like thousands of meters. So we may have orders with some particular meters, 100, 200, 300, 400, and for that we need some quantity of yarns. But most of the yarn suppliers, they never want to give the quantity of yarn we want, because they have their minimums. So we'll end up with buying more yarn than what is required. So it's always like we may have stock of one yarn, which we don't don't need, and it may lie in house for some time. And we hope we get an order in that. Even if we standardize and say these are the yarns we want to work with, even then there is we'll end up with some kind of stock which we could, which I'm really not happy holding stock of yarn in inside the factory. So that is one challenge. Second thing is we buy from suppliers who can give us a GRS certificate. It's very important for Khaloom that the suppliers have a GRS certificate when we buy it. Thirdly, I would say would be the percentage of mix when we talk about a recycled yarn. Like, so we can make a recycled yarn mixed with cotton or mixed with poly. The poly is of course coming from PET bottles, but we have to be absolutely sure that that poly is coming from PET bottles. So maybe the percentage of these things is also there. I would say these, and now off late because of COVID, the prices of yarn is fluctuating a lot. There are various reasons for it, and this in turn causes it doesn't allow us to cost properly, because you cannot keep changing prices every 3 months. So your prices are fixed for a year at least, but the yarn prices are fluctuating so much. It's going even between 30, 40, 50%. So then it affects our pricing. So these are some of the challenges we are having currently with the yarns and all this. We are getting there, but we still have a long way to go. Because there are a lot of people who are now think about sustainability, especially young designers. We get a lot of requests from young designers for fabrics when they want to design their collections and things like that. But I think we have a very long way to go for this. And I personally think that if all the big companies say that they would have some part of their collection to be sustainable, I think it would help in the long run. Like, say, let all the big companies, all the big brands who say, okay, 10% is going to be sustainable, which would be, I think, it would really help the market, really help in waste and all these things, waste reducing. And I think, see, as I told you, from where I came and where I am now, I think the future would be towards sustainability, towards reducing waste, providing safe environments, fair wages. Then I think that's where we would go in future, because I feel that I've seen the progress in the last 30 years, and I think that's where we would go, but slowly. It's not going to happen overnight, but I think that's where we would go towards.
I do hope that I have immense hope in our generation that we will come out of it better and think about the world first, planet first, and treat everyone equally. It was so nice talking to you.
Yeah. Also, the younger generation, I think you guys, I would say you both of you, because very nice of your endeavor to do something like this. But see, when I feel the younger generation should focus a little bit on slow fashion and also circular fashion. I think these two are very, very important, because if you're slow fashion, which means intentional and thoughtful, you're contributing to not having mindless consumption or excessive production. You can focus on the planet and living. And if you're looking at circular fashion, again, you're trying to keep the products and materials in use for as long as possible, so by reusing or recycling. So I think if the younger generation goes into this, it's going to make a huge and lasting impact on the environment as well as the planet and for living. Of course, we would also be doing our bit, but then the younger generation, it's the future for you guys. So I think that's where you should really focus on.
That's a really interesting point, and I think as in when I read more articles, I get to know more about what circular fashion could be and how we can be a part of it. So I think that's a really interesting point. And I think even in schools, design schools, they should encourage students to design in a way which is circular and more sustainable, like the collection itself. We also have one more question from Khushbu. What are your suggestions for us, like commoners? How can we contribute in this?
Okay, I think if all of us say that we are going to buy a handloom fabric, maybe every once in 2 months. I mean, okay, if you buy 10, other kind of fabrics, but at least spend some part of whatever you are actually buying on handloom. You would really be supporting a weaver for sure. That's one. Two is focusing and buying on sustainable garments or sustainable fabrics. I think that kind of commitment is something you all can make now. And then if you stick to it, I mean, if each one of us stick to it, I think it could make a huge difference in the long run. So I would suggest that would be what it should be.
Exactly. I think these are like wonderful points that you shared. Like, they can definitely help us to be more conscious when we're shopping, or discarding also any of our old clothes. So thank you so much.
Even, sorry, Sushmita, even discarding, right? I mean, generally, as a matter, from what I understand, all the sustainable fabrics we are making at Kaloom, and once it's made into a garment, it can be recycled minimum 3 to 4 times. So, meaning we can again give it back and again get it recycled. I don't think, I mean, of course, in India, as I understand from the yarn supplies, we don't have a very regular way of collecting the old clothes or old fabrics. But outside India, it's a lot more organized. There are organizations who collect fabrics from, not fabrics, garments, which consumers don't want. And then it's tons of fabric. Instead of going into the landfill, they again, there's second-hand shops. People do buy it, and then after that it comes to these factories to be shredded and things like that. But in India, I think that needs to be a little more organized. So I think we should look at that part, that we also don't buy. I mean, being a woman, and I know how it is that we like to buy clothes, and it's nice to have it. But I think after a certain point, I think we should it says, like how we talk about slow fashion, it is not mindless consumption. It is like thoughtful. You really need it, you want it. It's something like that which should drive the buying, rather than wanting to just buy because you like it.
Yeah, exactly. I think with this, we are almost at the end of our session. I would like to thank you on behalf of everyone present today here. I think it was a very insightful session, and we really got to know a lot about how you work with upcycled and recycled yarn, and what difficulties you face as a producer, and all the nitty-gritty things that you mentioned today. And we really appreciate the work you're doing, and we're really inspired by the work you're doing. So I would like to thank you once again.
Thank you, Sushmita. Thank you, Shalini. As I said, I'm very happy to be here today. Thanks to both of you and to support you. And please do come to Bangalore and come and visit Kaloom.